Hey everybody, I'm Logan Alec. I'm a CPA. Today I'm going to be talking about the IRS notice LT16 that's been going around recently. This can be an intimidating notice. That's why in this video I'm going to walk you through a sample LT16 right here on the screen. This is an actual LT16 that one of our clients received. We redacted the personal information, of course. I'm going to go through it, tell you what it says. At the end of the video, of course, I'm going to tell you what to do if you received IRS notice LT16. But first, let me just talk about what is this notice and why did you receive it. So the IRS is simply a notice, the notice LT16 is simply a notice that the IRS sends out to taxpayers who have a balance due. It also, the LT16 also goes out to taxpayers who not only have a balance due, but who also have missing tax returns. The IRS refers to these kinds of taxpayers as having a combo account. Yes, that's the actual language from the Internal Revenue Manual. Taxpayers with a combo account. That means, just like this taxpayer here, that they have an existing balance, right, for certain tax years of $80,747.20, right? In this case, that's for tax year 2014, okay? But they also have missing tax returns, right? So that they may owe even more money for. And the IRS breaks down the returns that it believes are missing in a table later in the notice LT16, okay? So this notice is simply telling you, hey, you owe us money. You need to act on this balance. Or if you owe the IRS money and you also have missing tax returns, hey, you need to figure out what you're going to do with this balance you owe us. Oh, and plus you got to also file these missing tax returns that you haven't filed. So that's what this notice is. That's why the IRS sends this notice out. Okay, so before I tell you what to do if you receive an LT16, let's just go through this notice part by part. Top right is basic information about you, such as your social security number would appear there, the notice name LT16. This is how you know this is an LT16. Here's the date of the notice, case reference number. If you're ever talking to IRS personnel and they ask you for that, you can give them that information. Your name and address would appear here. Why is my name here? That's because I'm a power of attorney for this client, meaning that I get the correspondence that the IRS sends this client. Well, a copy of the correspondence. Of course, the client gets the same notices. All right, so here at the top of the meat of it, we have this triangularized exclamation point. Please act on your balance of, in this individual's case, $80,747.20 and file your missing returns. The IRS gets straight to the point here of why they're sending you this notice. We're trying to collect unpaid balances and unfiled returns for you for the tax period shown on the next page. Your account may be subject to enforcement action, which may include seizing assets or wages. Following the instructions under the what you need to do section may stop enforcement action. Now, you know, in most LT16s, we're seeing there will be a balance here down to the penny. But we have seen some LT16s where it doesn't actually give an amount there. Let me see if I can find one. Right, so this one's kind of interesting. It doesn't, unlike the other one where it gives this, you know, balance here, this amount. This one just says, please act, and this is an LT16. You can see that right here. This one just says, please act on your unpaid balance. Right, and call this number for your amount due. But nevertheless, it gives figures here, but it doesn't include penalties and interest, right? Which is unlike this other one over here, which gives the amount owed per the return plus penalties and interest. Okay, I'd have to look into the case file to see if I can figure out why this LT16 was sent like this. But anyway, I think most of you are going to be receiving one. Or have received one that has an actual figure here, right? And if you have unfiled returns, it'll also have this second item here and file your missing returns, okay? That said, whichever notice of the LT16 you're receiving, you may find some reassurance here that the IRS is simply urging you to act on your balance, okay? This is less demanding language, right, than the type of language that we'd see in a notice such as the LT11, right? Or even the the CP 504, and I made videos about both of those videos. I made videos about both of those notices. That said, in the small print down here, the IRS does remind you that of its pretty awesome collection abilities, which may include seizing assets or wages. So this is definitely not something that you want to ignore. This notice is simply trying to get you to do something before it has to take that step. Other notices, such as the 504 and the LT11, they are telling you explicitly that the IRS is intending to take your stuff. Those are 504, notice of intent to levy, LT11, final notice of intent to levy, levy meaning start taking your stuff. LT16 is saying, hey, you're on our radar. We're not going to start taking your stuff like immediately, right? But we do want you to deal with this issue before we have to take that unkind step, right? And next, the IRS tells you, in its opinion, what you need to do right now. The first 3 bullet points here, unsurprisingly, have to do with paying off your tax debt, either paying it off in full, right, or paying it off over time, and of course paying as much of your balance as you can now. The next bullet point says, if you can't pay due to financial hardship, you can see the next page about options available to you. I will discuss those with you when I get to that page. And then it says, file your missing returns within 10 days of the date of this notice. That's only if you do have a combo account, meaning you have a balance due for some years, and then you also have unfiled returns for other years. Okay, this 10 days here, folks, you don't really have to sweat about this too much. Okay, if you want us to deal with this for you here at Choice Tax Relief, we can usually work with the IRS on longer timelines here. Give us a call at Choice Tax Relief, 866-8000-TAX. That's 866-8000-829 to help you if you receive this notice, if you have unfiled returns that you need to work on. Then in this little box here, the IRS gives you a link to the official notice webpage, irs.gov/LT16. It doesn't really tell you much that's not already kind of regurgitated information from the notice itself. Then we have your billing summary. If you add up these 2 numbers here, it should add up to, or will add up to this number here, right? Because that's how they get that number. This is just a breakdown of how they got that number. Now, our client, in this case, only owed for 1 tax year. Well, I think they owed for these missing returns we did for them too. But at least in terms of assessed tax, as of the date of this LT16 notice, they only owed for 2014. You might be asking, why are there 2 entries? Well, one is for the actual tax on the 1040. The other is for the Obamacare penalty, SRP, shared responsibility payment. Okay, and that's broken out separately for you there. Okay, and then they show the amount of penalty and interest on each. You got this penalty, if you recall, and the Trump Tax Cuts and Jobs Act eliminated this penalty for tax years beginning in 2018. At least at the federal level, some states still have their version of a shared responsibility payment, but this is no more at the federal level since tax year 2018. Anyway, so that's probably more than you wanted to know. Basically, if you didn't have adequate health insurance for the full 12 months of the year, on your return, it would calculate this Obamacare penalty for you. Okay. Anyway, and then below the section where it tells you what you're going to owe for, or what the IRS believes you owe for the years you have filed, or the IRS has done an SFR for you, is also listing out, hey, these are the tax returns that we think that you haven't filed. Now, let me tell you something. You may or may not want to file all of these years. Okay. It may not be in your best interest to file all of them. And as a matter of fact, when we work with clients here at Choice Tax Relief, we can often get the IRS to work with fewer years than are listed here. Okay, but as with all our clients, we need to get the guarantee from them that they will be very good little taxpayers going forward, filing on time, paying on time. So let me just put that out there. Okay, just because you see a tax period listed here as missing does not necessarily mean that you should file that tax return. It might, but it may also not be in your best interest. If this sounds very esoteric and strange to you, give us a call at Choice Tax Relief, 866-8000-TAX. That's 866-8000-829. we'll kind of walk you through what we mean in less vague language than I'm willing to talk about on video here. Okay. Now here's a section where it says, hey, if you can't pay due to financial hardship, it's basically giving you two common hardship resolution options. The first one is currently non-collectible status. It doesn't say it explicitly, but when it's talking about temporarily delaying collection here, what it's talking about is getting into CNC or currently not collectible status. I made a whole video on CNC status. Here at the upper right hand corner of the screen is where you can access it. There's a link there. It's also talking about the offer in compromise program, and it does explicitly name offer in compromise by name. This is an agreement with the IRS to settle your tax debt for less than you owe. I have made copious videos on the offer in compromise program as well. In fact, I have a whole playlist of my offer in compromise videos here at the upper right hand corner of the screen, so I'm not going to go in great detail about these because I have covered these concepts over and over again in other videos on my channel, and I really just want to get through this notice here so that we don't waste anybody's time. This next section is called IRS Help. IRS is basically giving you just basic IRS contact information via telephone or mail, and the link on the IRS website to find forms and publications. Great. Now we have the section Taxpayer Rights and Sources for Assistance. Some of these sources are more helpful than others. They're basically telling you that you have this taxpayer bill of rights, right? The right to quality service, the right to not pay any more tax than you actually owe. It's worth a read. I might make a video about this one day. It's talking to you about the Taxpayer Advocate Service. Now, sometimes so let me tell you what TAS is or isn't, because some people have kind of a misconception about what the Taxpayer Advocate Service is. Taxpayer Advocate Service is not going to do what a qualified CPA, EA, or tax attorney. And we have all three on staff here at Choice Tax, what they would do for you. What TAS will help with is if something isn't going right, if the IRS isn't really following its procedures properly, if something seems stuck in the IRS system, you may want to consider opening a case with TAS and getting a case advocate assigned to you. Okay, this can backfire though. And it has backfired on us here at Choice Tax Relief because we had something that wasn't working right with ACS. We opened a TAS case. Well, our TAS case advocate was nowhere to be found. Voicemail. We get voicemail. They don't reach out to us. We'd rather just work with ACS, right? But once it's in TAS, you can't get it back to ACS unless you make that request of TAS and send it back to ACS. But if your case manager or if you're assigned advocate and their manager's unavailable, man, it is really tough to get things moving. So use TAS at your own risk. That's all I got to say, folks. My policy here at Choice Tax Relief is, hey, we're not going to use TAS if there's a real hard client deadline for something anymore. Passport issue, citizenship, something like that. We're not using TAS because it can become it can become a black hole, right, in terms of timeline with them because they're so backed up with so many cases. Talking about low-income taxpayer clinics who can represent low-income persons before the IRS or in court. They also help people who speak English as a second language. Not everybody qualifies for that, and again, it's kind of a hit or miss thing. Okay. Then down here, you got the payment coupon. You're feeling like you want to write a check to the IRS, either for the full amount or some partial amount that you'd put here. You are welcome to do that. In fact, that is the whole goal of these notices the IRS sends out. It's free to get money transferred from your bank account into the United States Treasury. Now, should you pay this or not, I cannot tell you in this YouTube video. That is case by case. I will say that many of you who watch my videos and call in do qualify for some kind of hardship-based resolution with the government. Okay, but let me be clear: not everybody qualifies for an offer in compromise or hardship-based installment agreement, but you may. But I'll tell you one thing: if you owe the IRS 80 grand and you have like 800 grand liquid, you're probably not going to qualify, okay, for any hardship-based resolution. The IRS is pretty much just going to want to say, hey, sell 80 grand of that 800 grand you got and pay us, okay? Anyway, I'm kind of getting off course from the actual notice here. So let me let me talk about what you should do if you receive IRS notice LT16. First of all, as with any IRS notice, review the notice for accuracy. Okay, it should come as no surprise to you that the IRS sometimes makes mistakes, and they make mistakes on these notices and with respects to taxpayers' account or accounts from time to time. Review the notice for accuracy. If you agree that the notice is accurate and you have one of these combo accounts, okay, you need to, meaning you have an existing balance with the IRS plus you have unfiled returns, you need to figure out as soon as possible which returns it makes sense for you to file. I have other videos on this, okay? Watch the videos on my playlist on unfiled tax returns. Link to that playlist here at the upper right-hand corner of the screen. You got to figure that out, and you got to file those tax returns in order for the IRS to start working with you here, okay? Next, I would say, look, go for any penalty abatement that you can get, okay? Try to get some of those penalties abated. Various avenues you can approach it. FTA, reasonable cause, right? Explore those options. I've made other videos on that here in the channel to get that balance lowered as best you can. Next thing you got to do is you got to either pay that remaining balance in full or enter into some kind of resolution with the IRS. Because if you don't, what will eventually happen is the IRS will start taking forced collection activity against you, wage garnishments, bank levies, etc. Now, if you don't know what I mean when I talk about a resolution, I'm talking about things like the offer in compromise that was mentioned in the notice. I'm talking about something like currently non-collectible status. I'm talking about hardship-based installment agreements. If you don't qualify for a hardship-based installment agreement or hardship-based resolution, this could be some kind of other installment agreement, right, where you do pay your debt, but you have more time to pay your debt than maybe the IRS is originally willing to give you. Those are all things you need to look at and consider as your next step. Here at Choice Tax Relief, we get our clients in the best possible resolution, the best resolution possible with the IRS, the best resolution with the IRS that's possible for their situation, right? Sometimes that is an offer in compromise. Love it. Sometimes that's a PPIA. Sometimes that's CNC. Sometimes that's some other kind of installment agreement. That's what we do here at Choice Tax Relief. If you receive an LT16 and you owe the IRS at least $10,000 in back taxes or have at least 2 years of unfiled returns that you know you need to file, give us a call here at Choice Tax Relief, 866-8000-TAX. That's 866-8000-829. Or you can fill out the form at our website, choicetaxrelief.com, and we will reach out to you. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I have some other videos here on the left-hand side of your screen about this stuff. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.